Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for waiting so patiently for me as we welcome in Yisrael Fisher from Tannersville. You could see it's Memorial Day. He's there. Irving Fishbaum, Menachem Yamansky, Eddie Chazan, and we see Mark back there. It's good to see you, Mark. Dr. Guy, Shimon Deer, Aaron Swade, Shalom Fogel, Reuven Pollack, who gets a twin girl Mazel Tov. And Marshall Castle, Michael, and Saba gets a double Mazel Tov, except he does it in even more extravagant style. Irving just had twin grandchildren. Saba had a grandchild and a great-grandchild today. Yeah, that's the way to do it. No, I'm getting it wrong still? Okay, a grandchild.
Great-grandchildren.
Two great-grandchildren?
Yeah.
Two great-grandchildren, right? That's wonderful. Two great-grandchildren.
My son got grandchildren.
Right. Two great-grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. And Ilya, we're learning for your father who's having surgery. Give us the name again.
Shlomo ben Chanachaya.
Shlomo ben Chanachaya should have a refuah shalema and a successful surgery. Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Lehman, Shelley Zeitlin, Abe Arbach, Dr. Reuven Guy. Here we have, I see my cousin, Gail Weiss-Kushel, on here, Sandy Grunfeld, Michal Markovitz. We're going to also learn for Gedalia's sister, whose yahrzeit was today.
My father's yahrzeit was yesterday.
Your father's yahrzeit?
I'm sorry,
Grandfather's yahrzeit?
Gedaliah ben Avram.
Gedaliah ben Avram, who Gedalia is named after. Gedaliah ben Avram should have, his neshama should have an aliyah, should be a Meltz Yoshev for his family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. Let's remember that the Masechtas Gittin is dedicated that children should get into yeshiva without trouble. A very worthwhile tefillah that we ask for Hashem without any hard feelings, without any heartache, without having to lie. All of these are a very important tefillah. We are holding way ahead. We are on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, and we are by Ulu Rebbe Meir, which is 6 lines from the top. Ulu Rebbe Meir. So we said that for an Eved Kayin, it's not a zechus, because he's going to lose the right to eat truma. So therefore, when Shelley, the shliach, accepts to get shikra, it can't be zeichen in it for the Eved, because it might not be a zechus for him, because he's going to lose the right to have truma. So Rebbe Meir, Teinach Eved Kayin. That explains why he can't accept it on behalf of the Eved without his consent if he's an Eved of a Kayin. But Eved Yisrael, Ma'ikil, there he's not going to lose the privilege to eat Truma, and he doesn't lose the privilege of being supported, because the master could say, I'm not going to support you. So therefore, why can't he accept freedom on his behalf? So now the Gemara introduces a new thing. And that is the Eved doesn't want to lose the privilege of being able to marry a Shivcha. So you'll say, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? He can now marry a Beis Yaakov girl. He wants a Shivcha. Because when you have a Shivcha, you could do all kinds of vulgar things with her. And he has an appetite. After all, he's a Prosta Eved. He has an appetite to do vulgar things. With a Bas Yisrael, he can't do vulgar things. Not only that, he has to treat the Bas Yisrael with respect. Shifcha is used to not being treated respectfully, so it's too much of a burden. So it's not a schus for him to lose. Once he becomes a Ben Chayrin and is freed, he won't be able to take a Shifcha that he's accustomed to be with, as the Gemara tells us. Amar Reb Shmuel by Yitzchak Mepnei Shemafsidai Mishifcha Kananis, because by getting freed, he loses the privilege. Let's put that in quotes. But the privilege of taking a Shifcha Kananis. Says, well, what are you talking about? He gets a big benefit. Adrabah, Harihu Matira Baskarin, he could get a refined Beis Yaakov girl. Says the Gemara, he doesn't want a refined Beis Yaakov girl. Avda Befkira Nichalei. He wants free. He doesn't want to have any restrictions. Zilalei, she's cheap. He could treat her cheaply. He doesn't have to treat her with respect. Shchichalei, she'll always be available to him. There's none of this nida stuff. And pritzalei, he could act with her in a immoral way. He doesn't have to be refined with her when he has relations with her. So he wants more as Shifcha Kananis. So therefore, it's not as chus to get a Beis Yaakov girl. Thank you very much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. So, anybody that says that there's no difference between a guy and a yid, it's no such thing. No such thing. We know that it says hamavdil bein or l'chayshech and hamavdil bein Yisrael la'amim. The difference between a yid and a guy is like the difference between day and night. A huge difference. Now that doesn't mean that a guy can't be good, but it's different. A guy doesn't have any restrictions of Lashon Hara. He could talk behind your back, whatever he wants. Not only that, a guy is not restricted from hating you. In his heart, he could harbor hate. He could keep grudges with you. There's no din of leisitar. All of these disciplines that a Jew has, a guy does not have. We're talking about even an honest guy that lives according to the law of the land. He still doesn't have these disciplines. The disciplines of Kedoshim Tiyu, holiness, that we have to be holy inside, that's a strictly Jewish idea. The disciplines of not looking at immodest women. There's no such discipline by a guy. He'll tell you he's only looking. It's only by a yid that is an inyan of Shmiras Einayim. Now, it could be that in the religious orders, they try to preach morality. That's from the Torah. The New Mishnah tells us, Ha'omer tnu get zeh ishti, if he says, give this get to my wife, or shtar shichru zeh la'avdi, or this writ of emancipation to my servant. In other words, Chatzkel said, give this get to my wife, or this writ of emancipation to my servant, umeis, and he died. You don't give it after death. There's no get after death, and there's no freeing a slave after death. Then the slave goes to the Yoshim. Lo yitnu lachamisa. However, tnu mana leish pliny. If Chatzkel says, give this $100 to Ruvain, umeis, and Chatzkel dies, then yitnu lachamisa. Then we give it to Ruvain, even though Chatzkel died. Now, the Gemara is going to restrict this and talk about the kinyan of Maimed Shloshtan. Now, just let me familiarize you what the kinyan of Maimed Shloshtan is. Chatzkel says, Irving, you have $100 of mine, give it to Ruvain. Ruvain acquires it without the need to do the customary kinyan. Normally, you have to do a customary kinyan. Either make a kinyan agva, if it's light, if it's heavy, a kinyan meshicha by pulling it, but you have to make a kinyan. But if it's b'maimed shloshtan, And that means Chatzkel says, Irving, the money that I have by you, a deposit, give it to Ruvain, and all three of them are standing there. So it's b'mamat shloshtan, Ruvain acquires it. Now, the Gemara is going to pursue the question of what if it's not a deposit by Irving, it's a loan. Irving owns owes money to Chatzkel, and he says the $100 that you owe me, give it to Ruvain. That's going to be a question. Whether Maimed Shloshton works by a loan, that might be different. So, but let's see the Gemara inside. The Gemara says simply that if Chatzkel says to give $100 to Ruvain and he dies, you give it to him even though he died. So now the Gemara modifies this. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta mishmei de Rav. Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Shmuel, the son of Marta, says in the name of Rav, who should tzvurin u'munachin b'keren zavius. It's only talking about where that $100 is designated. It's piled up in a corner. So the Gemara wonders why. But my askinan, Ilaima Babari, if Chatzkel was a healthy man, and he just said give it to him and no kinyan was made, so ki tzivurin mayhave. If it's piled up, so what? Halay mashach. Reuven didn't make a kinyan on it before he died, and after he died, unless you say that it's a mitzvah l'kayim divrei hameis, the children are not mechuyev to honor that bequest. It must be that Chatzkel was a dying man, and a dying man, divrei shchiv meira kiksubin u'kemisurin dami. That the words of a shchiv meira is as if it's written and delivered. Oh, so then why only if it's in a pile? Says Gemara b'shchiv meira. Why does the money have to be designated in a corner? Ki ein tzvurin nami, even if they're not designated in a corner. Once he says it, it's as if it's signed, sealed, and delivered. The words of a shchiv meira, kiksuvim u'kumisurim dami. It's like it's written and delivered. So Rav Zvid says over here, the truth of the matter is, it's talking about a different case. Amar Rav Zvid, La'ilam Babari. It's talking about that Chatzkel is healthy. But it's talking about a case of Maimed Shlashtan. And he told Irving to give the money to Ruvain, and they're both, all three standing there, Chatzkel, Irving, and Ruvain. So then it has to be a deposit that Irving has designated in the house. The Chatzkel says to Irving, the money of mine that I deposited you today, give it to Ruvain, if all three are standing, they're kana. So that's one pshat. Rav Papa suggests another pshat. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says, La'aylam b'shchiv meira. It's a dying man. U'kedidach to Rav. The Amar Rav, shchiv meira she'amar tnu mana leploini minichsai. A shchiv meira, a dying man, that says, Chatzkel is a dying man, and he says, give $100 to Ruvain for my estate, so then it depends. If he says, monozeh, this 100, what's piled up? Noisna. Then we got to give that 100 because divrei shchiv meira kiksuvin u'kemisurin dami. But if he says manas stam 100, maybe he meant 100 that's buried somewhere. Says the Gemara, but if he says manas stam ain't noisna, you don't give it because kaishinon shema mana cover kama. Maybe he meant that I have $100 buried. And if we can't find that, if we don't know it, we don't have to give it. In other words, if he doesn't specify, the children could say, look, our father was not talking about the money that's in the house. The money that's in the house is ours. It must be some money that he had squirreled away. We don't know where it is. So you don't have to give it. And that's what it means, that if he says, Tnu mana, it's only if he said mana zeh, if he said this designated 100. Now that's not the halacha. Allah is there, if he says 100, you got to give 100. We don't say that maybe he meant only buried money. Now, we have two pshatim in the Mishnah. One pshat in the Mishnah is that it's talking about, did I welcome everybody when we started this year? I did, right? Look at that. I didn't remember. Oh, yeah, I remember welcoming Reuven Guy, but I see Michal Markovitz has joined us, and I see Ben Zion Cohn has joined us. Abe Arbach has joined us. I know it's late a little bit. Says the Gemara, so why does one learn it's talking about with a healthy person, and one learns it's talking about a dying man? So Marshall says, I'm just glad it's not me. Rav Papa Amar, excuse me. So says the Gemara, Rav Papa my time aloyama karev zvid. Rav Papa, who says that it's talking about a dying man, why doesn't he say it's going according to Rav Zvid and it's talking about b'maimid shlashtam? You know why? Kasavar, as we turn to Yud Gimel Amid Beis, Kasavar, he holds, Kasavar Rav Papa, Kiyama Rav, when Rav said it, he didn't only say it in the case of a deposit by Irving. He said it even in the case where Irving owed me the money. And even where Irving owed me the money, I could still say, Irving, the money that you owe me, give it to Reuven. Now, that's a bigger chiddush. Because, you see, where he has my money, a deposit, he can't touch it. So my money is ready. Where I gave him a loan is loitzah, a loan is to spend. So the money is not ready. So maybe I cannot say it's not there. So maybe I cannot say that it should go to Reuven. But the reason why he doesn't hold like Rav Zvid is because he says it's not only in a case of a deposit. Now Rav Zvid, my time Papa. Why did Rav Zvid not learn that it's talking about a dying man? This is for a very good reason. Because by a dying man, you don't have to say tnu. As soon as he says kisvu, record it, you give it even if he doesn't say tnu. Now our Mishnah says that tnu, and it's only in the case of tnu where we said that he doesn't get it because if he says a regular mana, we're worried that maybe he meant only a buried mana. But otherwise, says the Gemara, let's see it inside. Rav Zvid my time aloyama papa mitukma masnisim b'shchib meira. Our Mishnah would not be able to be explained with a dying man. Mimai. Midikitani ha'omer tnu get zel ishti, ushtar shichra zel abdi. Give this get to my wife, this shtar shichra to my Evan. Umeis lo yitnu lachamisa. Time of the mace. The raya is from the first part of the Mishnah. Our Mishnah says if he says, give this get to my wife and shtar shichra to my servant, and he dies before it's delivered, umeis lo yitnu lachamisa, implying, but if he didn't die, time of the mace, ha-mechayim, but if he's alive, then noisnim. But the implication is, you only give it if he said tnu. Time adama tnu. If he didn't say give it, if he just said record it, ain't noisnim. But that's not true by a dying man. By a dying man, even if he says record it, we deliver it. Initially they said, Hayoitze b'koiler. Now remember, I told you koiler was an iron collar that they put around a man's neck when they were leading him to the gallows. That was done right before they took him to the gallows. So that was pretty much that he's going to die. So at that point, a man will issue a get so that his wife should be divorced before he dies, so she shouldn't be trapped into Yibum, and only married to the Yavam. Maybe she doesn't want to be married to the Yavam. So, if he's taken out in the iron collar, he said, write a get. Now, he forgot to say deliver it. We assume he definitely wants it delivered. But only in that dire case. They then added, Afamafarish, somebody was going on a sea journey, so they used to give a get so that in case they were lost at sea, the wife wouldn't be an aguna. Somebody goes on a dangerous caravan trip through the desert where there were a lot of bandits, and again he could be captured and disappear for years, and she would remain an aguna. Reb Shimon Shizuri Aimer Afamasukin, even one who is deadly sick. So you see that our Mishnah can't be talking about a Shchimira. Because if our Mishnah was talking about one who is deadly sick, then it says in the Mishnah that if he says Tnu get and dies, we don't give it after. But if he's alive, we do give it, but only Tnu. So it can't be talking about a dying man, because a dying man doesn't have to say Tnu. He could just say Kisvu. Says the Gemara, but maybe our Mishnah, it could be talking about a dying man, and it's not going according to Reb Shimon Shizuri, who adds a Masukin. Mask Ravashi, a man named on the Masniz Reb Shimon Shizuri, who says it's Reb Shimon Shizuri. Dilma Rabbanani, that say only if he goes out in a collar, only if he goes out in an iron collar, or he goes on a trip, but maybe not if he's dying. Now we're going to go back and analyze more the subject of Maimed Shloshtan, of where Irving, Chatzkel, and Ruvain are together.
Sorry, Rabbi Weiss, would a Kohen write this get if he's going out to sea?
What?
Would a Kohen write the get?
With a kayin, they would do a conditional get.
Conditional, right.
Now, Gufa. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Rav Huna says in the name of Rav. So now let's get the case again. Chatzkel tells Irving, Monali biyadcha, Irving, the $100 that I have deposited by you, Teneu loy leplaini, give it to Ruvain. If Chatzkel, Irving, and Ruvain are all standing there, b'mamet shloshten kon. Amar Rav, so Rav says, Mistavra milsei de Rav b'pikod. It's only if it was a deposit by Ruvain, by Irving. So he has the money ready there. He's a deposit he's not allowed to use, so he's just watching it. It's in his break front. So I say the money that's in your break front of mine, give it to Ruvain. Aval b'milva loy, but not in the case of a loan, because in the case of a loan, Irving took a loan. He could use it. He could invest it in the stock market. He could buy fans for the Aguda in Staten Island. He could buy a snowblower for the shul. He's probably doing a mitzvah with it, but it doesn't have to be there. However, V'Elokim, by God, Amarav afilu b'milva. He said it even if it's a loan. Itmanami amishmu mishmei de Levi. Milva li biyadcha, if the loan that you owe me, Irving, Tinei loy leplini, give it to Ruvain, Mamamit Shloshtin Kon. Now the time.
What is he exactly?
Huh?
What is he calling? He's calling when the loan is up.
Now he assumes that money.
That money, but not that bill, because the bill is loan sudden.
No, not the bill. Not the bill.
It's kind of like Shibud the
Well, 1 second. Let's see. The time of my. Look at the next words. The time of my. What's the reason? Amar Ameimar says Nasik Aimaloi B'Shas Matan Mois. It's as if Irving, when he took the loan from me, said, I commit myself, Shabbat Noloch, I commit myself to you, Rabbi Wise, L'didach, U'lechol da'asam achbasach, and anybody that comes on your behalf. So this was the commitment that he made. Rabbi Weiss, you're going to give me $100. I could buy a lot of candies for the children in the Aguda, right? And I commit myself to you or anybody that comes, machmas you. In this case, Ruvain is coming. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, what if somebody is born after the loan? Somebody is born after the loan. He couldn't have been Meshabbat himself, because at the time of the loan, that guy wasn't alive. If it's 15 years later, and I say to Irving that you should give it to this cute bar mitzvah boy. Now, at the time of the loan, the bar mitzvah boy was not in the world, so Irving couldn't have been Meshabbat himself to this bar mitzvah boy. He wasn't there at the time of the loan. Because the afilul Rameir, even according to Rameir, the Amar Adam Makna Davar Shaloi Bala, even according to Rameir, who says that a person could transfer something that didn't yet come into the world. That's the din that Rameir holds, that you could sell fruit on a tree even before they grew. So you could transfer something that didn't yet come in the world, but the person that you're transferring it to has to be in the world. To somebody that's in the world. To somebody that's not in the world yet, lie. So even if you'll say that Irving was Meshabbat himself to me and to anybody that comes machmas me, but that person has to be in the world. And here this bar mitzvah boy was not in the world yet, because it's 15 years later. At the time of the loan, the bar mitzvah boy wasn't born yet. So why should Irving be meshubit to this bar mitzvah boy? Ella, says the Gemara, Ella Amar of Ashi, a very interesting shot. Irving gets a benefit now, because until now he owed the money to me, and time was almost up for the loan. And now I'm saying that he should give it to Ruvain. He buys himself more time, because Ruvain will tell him, okay, Irving, if you need a few more months, it's new by Ruvain. So since Irving gets a more of a grace period, he's happy to be Meshabbat himself. Let's see it inside. Bahiyano, the kabishtanyule bein milva yeshana lemilva chadasha. It switches from an old loan to a new loan. Now that answers the bar mitzvah boy. because it's not a shibud that was done at the time of the loan. At the time of the loan, the bar mitzvah boy wasn't alive yet. It's a shibud that's done now. It's a shibud that's done now because he's benefiting that with me. It's already a long time. He got to pay up real soon. And now when it's coming to Ruvain, he gets it, it's now like a milva chadasha. So because of this benefit, Gamar u'mishaben nafshe, he's mishaben himself to give the money even without a kinyan.